Hi, one and all. I hope that this is audible and everything is working in perfect order. One of these days, I will show up to these on time and keep my word, and then it's over for you all when that happens. But today's topic is going to be trust, trustworthiness, and trust issues. And it was inspired by an older TikTok that came out, I think, autumn, about 6 months ago. I think it could have been like November, something like that. And it blew up. And it was this really beautiful woman on TikTok who was just saying, men are cruel creatures. Like, they don't care, they're disrespectful, disloyal. I'm just so tired. Like, I've given up that I'm going to find anyone and it's just not worth it for me, this and that. She goes, they're just like something else. And I thought about it. I thought it's actually a really interesting take. And I wonder what it does to a person when their trust is breached. So, as it so happens, while I was cooking the other night, something came up on my YouTube, a man by the name of Tim Fletcher. So, this is inspired by one of his talks, and he has a long term complex trauma series surrounding trust. I mean, all kinds of like things, but there's an episode on trust and trust issues. I forget what it is. It could be like part 13 or something. I think there's like 60 parts. But, anyways, in it, he discusses the hi, Charlotte. Hey. So we're talking about trust, trustworthiness, trust issues, recovery, all that stuff. So I was thinking about that and I thought maybe there is some type of collective complex trauma in the West regarding dating culture because of the advent of the glamorization, we'll call it, of promiscuity and what that actually does to a person and what you can do to like better equip yourself going forward if you are not even aware. And what I found that a lot of people aren't even aware that they are affected. So um anyway, I made notes on his lecture and I'm going to summarize them here for you if you don't feel like watching it or reading books. We're going to cover shame. We were supposed to do the huge penis book today, but change of plans. So this is actually a really great book. I really enjoyed it. But anyway, we're going to cover the secret message of shame and other things. But moving on to trust. So I've noticed, people saying like watching more Shira 7 or the Universe Guru and things like that coming to my channel and saying, that's so true. So as a joke, I jokingly say I don't talk to men for free, but I really mean that. I realized in my 20s that there was no value in male friendship. This is really culture and location specific. I feel like in some cultures it's more like workable than in other cultures. Here we go. My bangs always trying to crash my vibe. But it depends. I feel like here where I am in North America in the West, um, there's just like some kind of weirdness. You have to almost like defend it, or people are very suspicious about it, or it's only a matter of time before someone's to like sleep with you. It's not true of everywhere. I have friends all over the world. They think it's really bizarre that it's such like a juvenile thinking kind of thing. But then again, sex is so overexposed that people can't help but think that or feel that or misconstrue that, right? So that's the first thing. And honestly, I've just felt so much peace since then. And it's really, really difficult as well to move through the world. And this is going to sound so dramatic, but I do mean it. When you're a lady, just to be seen as like a human, not like, but to be seen as a human being is, I don't know what it is. I don't know why everything is down to like your coos. Shira Seven's onto something. Like, honestly, that's all they think about at the end of the day. So when a man is courting you, he will literally do, say, and, think anything, prove anything, pay for anything just to have access to you. But when they screw up, it's not the same tune. So that's very funny. So we're going to get into trust issues and I'm going to take out these notes, but I want to say that I have notes on forgiveness. Maybe we'll do a separate thing on forgiveness, but I think forgiveness in the way that people discuss it is really misconstrued or somehow like overrated. And I don't mind that people are we're human beings. I don't mind that people make mistakes. I notice when you don't remedy your mistake. That's what bothers me because it's only a matter of time before, like, I speak without a filter. I hurt people's feelings all the time. I don't mean to do it, but if you catch on, you should apologize and your apology should be when they're like consumer with experience on job posts. I'm like, yeah, it should be consumerate with the amount of damage that is done, sort of like restitution. So you have to put the person in the position that they were in prior to you hurting them or betraying their trust. So that being said, we can begin. Unless you have any questions before I start, let me know. I'm just like going right into it today. I didn't eat yet, so if I'll probably run out of steam, run out of energies, and I'll have to stop talking at some point. But um, okay, let me find it here. So it's really interesting. I enjoy this very, very much. Here we go. Tim Fletcher on trust. So what does it mean? Hey, Claudia, I was just thinking, I was like, I wonder if Claudia's here. Okay, so we're talking about trust. So what is it to be a trustworthy person? So this is taken from the series by Tim Fletcher. So, to be a trustworthy person means that you are a safe person. You make people feel safe. You respect them, you respect your boundaries, their boundaries, and have good internal boundaries as well. We'll cover that part. Being a person of good character, a person who lives out of their healthy cortex rather than their childlike brain. They have good internal boundaries regardless of how they feel. So, something that I've noticed with just this generation is the sort of like, I want to have fun. So this morning I heard a Reddit post where the dude said that I think he's now deleted it, and he basically what happened was I can't even believe this is real life, like, I'm shocked, I'm speechless, I'm shocked, okay? So he was with his wife, and his parents are, like, fundamentalist Christians, and after they got married, he told her that he regretted that he didn't have a chance to have fun and, like, sleep around when he was younger like everyone else. It's not everyone else, I don't know where he's getting this. So he said his coworker told him Reddit was a good place to get advice, so he asked his wife if they could open their marriage because he wanted to have fun, and she basically agreed to it out of duress because she didn't wanna lose him because he said, "Either you let me sleep with other women or I'm divorcing you." And then she outed him to his family because she was so distressed. So now he said, "Am I the a-hole because, my wife did this thing? He says she won't respect my boundaries. She broke my trust." It was, like, literally all him. And then on top of that, he didn't wanna take accountability for any of it, right? So now he's lost his wife, and he doesn't understand that he was wrong. So what happens is a person who reflexively does everything they feel like doing, which I think is a sign of the modern times, especially the part of the world we live in where everything is like, is it fun? Am I having fun? Does it serve me? What can I do to get away with as little amount of responsibility or accountability as possible? Like, if everything is emotionally driven, you just haven't grown up because that's how children act. That's their instinct. So, grown adults, like over the age of 18, you've got to reel that in. You've got to start thinking, okay, this isn't easy, but I took vows and I've got to get over it. I'm going to be doing the deed for the rest of my life because I have a partner. What does it matter who it's. And somebody on TikTok too said, like, men are so whatever, they will literally throw away their whole marriage and like family life for 10 minutes with like some random. Like, they just don't understand like consequences. It's so bizarre. And then they get angry when they're left, right? So don't be that person. And having good internal boundaries. That means if I say, I took vows, I'm going to honor that regardless of how I feel. Now, that doesn't mean tolerating abuse. Obviously, I'm not going to preface much because like we should just know better by now. But basically, I remember I had a partner, and something that really struck me as so incredibly difficult to be around that person, and I left them, was when they were upset about something, which was honestly always their fault. I'm not even being funny. They were just like really reactive. When they got angry about something, they would revoke all their goodness. Now, I don't mean, when people get upset, they're like, oh, you can't withhold intimacy because you're upset. Yes, you fucking, excuse me, yes, you freaking can. Because if you're upset, you've made someone feel unsafe and you don't have physical access to them. That's like a form of self abuse. That's really, really weird. But they wouldn't even have decency. Like, they wouldn't have decency, no politeness, no manners, no kindness. They were extremely, vengeful and emotionally violent, amongst other things. And I had to explain to them, you just because you're mad doesn't mean it gives you just this like blanket right to go ahead and abuse the person that you're seeking forgiveness from. You can be angry. You can't yell at people. You can't call them outside their name. You can't throw things at them. I don't care if you're upset. If you're in a relationship, you have to do things respectfully. They just didn't know that. But I don't know that they didn't know that. I think they were allowed to get away with it for 5 years in their previous relationship, and they thought that they could do it again. But then they met me, so it didn't work. Tinder culture has become too popular that it's trendy to sleep around. I don't want a partner who has no self control and wants to sleep with every living thing, and I hold myself to the same standard. Amen. Interesting enough, in terms of studies, it is found that men who sleep around have less satisfaction in relationships, are less likely to stay in long term relationships. And if they're in long-term relationships, it actually wires them in such a way that it ruins their ability to bond deeply with someone. Ironically, does not affect women the same way. Women can do it, and this is true. I was talking to someone on Monday. I went to this meet, had a really fun time, and the lady and I were talking about it. Makes sense, yeah. And we were discussing. Isn't it funny how our biology evolved by having multiple partners? See, men are monogamous. Biologically, women are not. That's why our insides are stretchy. And in prehistoric times, um, men would all bring some kind of resource to the woman. It didn't matter whose child she birthed, they would all raise it collectively. So if there was a tent and you don't wear boots, but imagine you're getting your ankles knocked. If they heard your calls, they would kind of approach. And if they were allowed through, then they wouldn't blow that chance. They would protect you, like all of them. Like, so you could have like three husbands or something, right? I'm not saying that's what we should be doing. I'm just giving you the illusion that's been cast upon us to think that men have free reign to do those things. They don't. Esther Perel said that. She's like, "Well, we know that men have always been this way." She says, "We don't know that. We know that historically they have been allowed. We don't know what women would have done had they been socially allowed to do it. So the fact that we're socially restricted from doing those things and punished for doing or not doing those things, we're punished for being celibate, we're punished for being promiscuous. You can't really win." She says, "We don't actually know that to be true. So you're using it as an excuse to like open your marriage or whatever, right?" Charlotte says they know they're not allowed. That's why they only do that violence at home and not their boss, etc. Exactly. I was dating this guy who was in a long-term relationship and he mentioned how he never had any conflict with the ex, but he's very communicative, which was odd because the energy they gave when talking about the topic was a little bitter because this person didn't change to fit his ideal person. Isn't that interesting? See, so my friends always used to say, when you know better, you do better. You have to be the one to fix the relationship. And I just think, well, maybe when you're younger, that's like a learning curve. But you get to a certain point where you only have so much energy at the end of the day. You have to put it into yourself or you'll go completely mad. So why is it always the person who knows better and is good is being punished for their goodness? Why is that excusable? It's like an emotional version of weaponized incompetence. So we're not having that. It's 2024. Let's get over it. Okay. So what violates love? All right, so we've covered that. People who only do what they feel and people who only do what they feel even when they shouldn't. So that means having respect and decency even when you don't feel like it. So say you're on a road trip, you change the station, you tick off your partner, they have no right to then if you're hungry or you need the washroom for them to pass by like an exit. I don't care if you're upset. You're still in that partnership. You still have to bring the best version of yourself, right? You can talk about it. You can Hi, Megan. Hello, my auntie brain rot queen. Thank you for coming. I see you. I see you. So, it doesn't matter if you're upset. You don't get to ruin your partner's birthday or something. You still have to discuss it with them. There's a time and a place to do things and so forth. Yeah, agreed. I feel like I triggered him. Of course. So, what violates love? Lying, breaking promises, hurting people, stealing, cheating. To that, I would add a form of lying, although it's not explicitly. So I've added my own stuff. He's a list of like 37 things, but I've added some of my own. One of them is misrepresenting you. So it's not exactly gossip and it is a form of lying, but misrepresentation of your partner. So we know a lot of immature people do this, especially like, I'm sorry, but the opposite sex does it quite a bit. They'll beg you, be in a relationship with you, and then when they are hanging out with other people, make it seem like a burden or a chore to be with you and then come home all happy. And it's like, well, you don't have to be here. You chose to be here. You chose to be in an adult relationship like Richard. Yeah, like Richard. Richard from Hinge. So that's a form of trust, betraying one's trust because you're misrepresenting your partner to the world, or calling your partner crazy when you are the one who basically made them that way, right? That breaks trust because that person's just bipping along through life, living happily. They don't even know that there's a group of people out there who think they're crazy, think they're cruel, think they're abusive, think they're nagging, think they're controlling. So you don't honor them, all right? So I would put a lack of honor as well. Love makes you trustworthy. Being a person who operates from a place of love, meaning you're compassionate, you're patient, you're understanding, you show people grace. Okay, maybe they transgress upon you. You give them the chance to fix the mistake. Okay, that's important. That's a loving thing to do. So I remember a friend of mine, she's in a long-term relationship. I said to her, and her partner like does stupid stuff like that. So basically in their culture, they're very religious and you're not supposed to like over socialize, go out at night, even for the men. It's a little taboo. And she doesn't like that he hangs out with his guy friends after work and goes to like hookah bars and smokes shisha, maybe winks at other girls, whatever, right? It seems tame for us, but for them, it's like maybe going to a strip club or going on OnlyFans, right? So she said, you know what? I just stopped asking him what he's doing. There's no point. He just lies to my face. Like I'll call him. I hear that he's out, and he doesn't respect it. So she said, I just don't call him anymore. I don't ask what he's up to. I go silent because I'm mad. And then he stopped doing it. But I said, then why would you be with someone who does that? She goes, everybody will make mistakes. And she said, most men will betray you, if not all of them. The difference with him is he always makes it right. He understands there's some thing he can do. He does some kind of material security. So like we'll get on the phone, we'll talk, and then they have a joint bank account that he puts money into. She says when I'm really upset, he will always put something in there. So he'll call, he'll say, okay, I have to go to work. We'll finish talking about it tonight. It's not resolved. I haven't fully made it up to you. Go cheer yourself up. Take a friend to lunch. I've been on many lunches with her on his dime. Literally, it was like a bi-weekly. It was like a bi-weekly event. She was like, go get a dress and there will be not like 50 bucks, there'll be several hundred pounds or several thousand pounds per error. Okay. So she's like, he will always like he's literally built her a property. When one big boo-boo happened, he added an extension to the property as a surprise. So she said, it's not that he does something wrong. Everybody will do something wrong. She goes, he genuinely feels bad. Most of them don't even feel bad. And that's the we open talking about that TikTok. She's like, they have no remorse for when they hurt you. They want you to respect them. They don't show you respect. They don't show you courtesy. They don't even care how bad they make you feel. So that's the thing. She said, I would never leave him because he makes everything right. Whether it's a misunderstanding, whether it's deliberate, he makes it right and he will stick with it until he gets it right. Okay. So love makes you trustworthy. Then I said, I would add, if you don't love yourself, you are genuinely just not a trustworthy person. So if you have no internal boundaries, external boundaries, self respect, I'm not trying to be cruel. You can be a good person and an insecure person, but stay away from me. There's really nothing to be gained from being around someone who just hasn't figured out their comfort level in life and like what they're about, what they want. And generally speaking, insecure people will do anything for validation and that includes trampling your respect. Okay, so if you say respectfully, don't do this, I'm not in the mood or something, and they do it anyway, they do it out of insecurity because they want validation. They want to like reach out to you and have your approval or stay relevant, show off something. But that's not the point. I said don't do it. And I understand you're operating from a place where you don't know any better. You're not experienced. You're not cultivated, worldly or cultured or generally intelligent or emotionally intelligent. But that's not my problem. I don't have to be on your level. I don't have to be teaching you and doing all those things. Do you know what I mean? You need to get with the program. So I would say if you're an adult, if you're over 18, you shouldn't surround yourself with emotionally insecure people. I guess this is what works for her and it's not deal breakers, but I also agree he has self accountability. That's what it is. I think culture and how you were raised environment plays a lot in these type of things, of course. So, okay, so generally as well in terms of trust, a person who doesn't value themselves cannot possibly love you to the fullest extent that you require, whether they're a friend or a parent or whatever. To whatever degree you would like to associate with them is entirely up to you. The stage that I'm in my life, I don't make any concessions, like none. Like life is short. I have a forward like momentum mentally and emotionally. So it's just very draining for me personally. I'm not interested. So if you're not nice to yourself, you don't really know what you're doing. Even if people are like, but he's a nice guy. He didn't mean it. I don't care. Go figure it out. How did I figure it? This is always the question that bugs me. What are we doing here? How did we all figure this out? If you're watching us, how come you know better? No one taught you. You figured it out yourself. You got some books, you took some seminars, you reflected, you journaled, you cried about it, you had an epiphany in the shower or you were really high off a bong rip. It doesn't matter. But you got there. Why can't they do it? It means if you could do it, anyone can do it. They choose not to. It's easier to drift through life, right? So I don't tolerate that kind of emotional laziness. It's like well people say it's not fair like they didn't know or she didn't know. You wouldn't get mad at a child. You're right, I wouldn't get mad at a child because it's a child. You're not a child. That's not an excuse. Okay, moving on. Childish behavior makes people untrustworthy. Claudia says exactly. I'm still figuring out, and I won't blame a guy if he doesn't want to stay for the journey because he's had enough of similar situations, period. Childish behavior makes people untrustworthy because they go with how they are feeling, unreliable, and that's what runs their life is their impulses. So, like we mentioned earlier, if you just operate on consistent mindless impulse, you're not a trustworthy person. You have to stop and think, is this acceptable? Um, how does this going to come across? Because if you're only reaching for how you feel, how you can assert yourself in the room, assert yourself in a conversation, and it's like dropping an energetic bomb. It's like it's very unpleasant to be around that kind of energy, and we really have to discuss the implications of projecting your energy, not in a new age kind of way, but it's the truth. We're mammals. Most of our communication is nonverbal. People can sense that. They can feel that. It makes them feel really strongly or really uncomfortable. So this is why people say, but sometimes like people are very emotionally stiff and immature. They're like, what did I actually do? What did I actually say? It's like you don't have to actually do or say anything. You're a pain to be around. And you know that, and then the fact that you're trying to like double down and make me explain it to you, trying to make me look crazy. No, absolutely not. Just disengage from that. Trustworthy. I treat people the right way, even if I don't feel like it. So that means if you take a girl out for dinner, she doesn't want to go back to your place, and maybe you had other aspirations, you still be a gentleman. You don't say nothing. Okay. You don't say you owe me nonsense. None of that podcast nonsense. Okay. If you receive criticism or feedback or suggestion, it hurts your feelings or something, be gracious, be polite, be kind. Okay. Show up and keep promises, even if they don't feel like it. Crying, I'm physically stiff majority of the time. Okay. Keeping promises. That's another one. I think this happens a lot in the modern age because we just have so much access to communication now, and it's kind of like lost the plot a little bit. Where dudes will say, "Come on, when are we going out?" Whatever. I really, like the future faking. I want to go boating with you. Summer's coming. Let's go to the beach. Let's have picnics. Let's go on bike rides. One day we'll go to Egypt. One day we'll go to Thailand. Da, 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 da. Why are you doing that? Who cares? That's actually it's like stupid. It's a waste of time. So if you don't actually follow through, like really for dudes, words mean nothing. They mean something to women. Shira Seven's totally right about that. So breaking, not following through, not talking, walking the walk, talking the talk, all of that, that's a violation of trust as well. So I said, good internal boundaries will always show up and treat people with respect. That means if you offend them and they tell you you've offended them, you don't get to double down and be a bigger jerk. You apologize. If they don't want to accept your apology, you've got to try. If you're lazy, like, oops, my bad, like, no, if they're really upset, make it right. If you don't want to make it right, you need to sit on your bed and rethink your life. But if they're really, really upset, another thing I want to add to the list is forced forgiveness. Rebuilding trust or accepting an apology takes time. People don't heal just because you're like, sorry. It's not a magic wand. This isn't a Disney film. This is real life. So it takes time. It takes effort. So a lot of those Reddit posts where it's like, I think I broke my wife. I'm like, every one of the comments, like, she needs to leave you. She deserves better. But that takes time. And then they get mad when their wives don't accept their apology. Like, obviously, they don't accept your apology. You just said it like twice. You need to grovel for like 2 years, depending on what you did. So, good relationships involve two people that are both trustworthy. So, we'll talk about how to trust again. Trust is built on evidence. So, if you have trust issues and you meet someone who hasn't done anything to violate your trust, but you would like to be friends with them, coworkers, lovers, anything, this takes time. And notice that he uses the word evidence, which means it's action oriented. So it doesn't matter what they say, like, I would never do that to you. I actually need to see it in action. Like, love is not only said to be done, it must be seen to be done. I have to see that I can trust you. Okay. Do they have a character shaped by love? Are they generous? Are they compassionate? Are they considerate of others? Do you consider others? That's the two words that all relationships hinge on, is considering others. Okay. Are they a safe person, and do they trust God? So I think Tim Fletcher's like a Christian. I'm not really sure, but we'll talk about that in a second. I've said that for a long, long time. Spiritual men are the way to go, or godly men, or something, but not only in name. So don't come in here and be like, well, actually, my ex, like, I mean, people who are actually devoted to some higher power other than themselves. So honestly, I would like to add to this, people actually do treat you how they feel about you. I don't care what they say. They can say that they love you, they can say that they care about you, they would never hurt you. You will know by the way that it feels. Abraham Hicks says that all the time about manifestation. They said, how do I know I'm thinking the right thing or doing the right thing? How do I know if I'm making the right decision? And they say, you will know by the way that it feels. If you're anxious, no. If you're doubtful, no. If it's a not a hell yes, it's a hell no. You should feel a ripple of excitement. You should be calm. You should be certain. If you don't feel those things, it's not for you. So you'll know you know, how they feel about you by the way that they treat you. And people show you that they value you or not. It doesn't, and people, oftentimes they're like, oh, it's like always about this or money or that or da 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 da. If you don't have money, you can still be decent. You can still float. It costs nothing to keep your promise. It costs nothing to give and keep your word. Like, please, like, think a little bit bigger, okay? So, long story short, I'm sorry to say you really can't trust words at the end of the day, because we've seen that. This is what gets a lot of girls in trouble. I've realized that sometimes I'm in denial, though. I don't want to know. So, trust is destroyed at many, many levels. Breaking trust is, okay, so I've included some things here. The distortion of reality. So, this is what we would refer to as gaslighting. So, like I've said earlier, I'm going to stick with that example. Um, just because it's calm at first doesn't mean anxiety won't get you. Exactly. So, let's say Claudia's in a relationship and her boyfriend goes to watch sports with his friends, though, God, she would never date someone who does that anyway. And he's like, oh, she's at home. Um, she didn't want me to come or something. And you're like, why are you like speaking badly? And then when he comes back, he says, oh, they all love you. I told them all these great things about you. But you can feel it. Like, you can feel something's off. Another one is, let's say, I've known this. I don't know why dudes do this, right? But dudes will like beg you, beg you, beg you, beg you, beg you, to hang out with them and their friends. And then you're like, I don't know, I have stuff to do. I have to go to work. I have to study. I'm really tired. It's hair washing day. It's laundry day. But you're like, okay, my boyfriend really wants to come. I'm gonna go. So you show up. You do your best. You know what I mean? And then when you get there, or when you're on the way home, they kind of hold it over your head. They're like, did you see how well I treat you? No one else brought their partner, but I brought you. You should be grateful. You should be thankful. You're like, I didn't even want to go. Why are you throwing that in my face? I didn't even want to go. And now you make me look crazy. Now you make me look clingy. That's a violation of trust, because it's a distortion of reality. The truth is, you did it as a kindness to them, and they're weaponizing that against you. And you could take it to another level and say, she wouldn't let me go without her, or something like that. And it's like, that's not true. I actually couldn't care less. I don't like when men who go to strip clubs and then their feedback is, oh, that's so prudish of you, or something like that. It's just immature. That's like over the age of like 12. You should, even a 12-year-old knows that's just like wrong. Okay. So, distortion of reality, generally gaslighting as well. Okay. Distorting your own instinct, destroying your instinct, destroying your thought patterns, destruction of your feelings. When you're with someone who's untrustworthy, it wires you to the extent that you don't even trust how you feel. So you're thinking, like, let's say the strip club example, you're like, is it really a big deal? Everyone does do it. Maybe I am prudish. It's like, trust your instincts. Trust your instincts. And I'm not trying to be mean, but so much of the time people are like, stop blaming women. No, no. A lot of women's picker is broken. A lot of their radar is off because they don't trust their instincts. So I'm not blaming women, but 9 times out of 10, when you see a video online of a woman having like a breakdown because her partner betrayed her, you see a 1-second clip of this dude, or they flash this picture for 2 seconds, and your spidey senses as a mammal, the body language is off, the eye contact is off, the tone. You know he's a liar. You know he's a scammer. You know he will never make you happy. Like that latest TikTok that made me laugh. They're like, any man who wears a tote bag will not be a provider. I'm like, it makes me laugh. I can't explain it, but there's some things you can like sense. And then you wonder, why couldn't she tell? Why was she insecure? Why was her self-esteem on the floor? Why didn't she choose better, right? Because someone along the lines in her life, whether if it was her childhood, a bully at school, a bully boss, some kind of harassment, a landlord who harassed them, or a partner who harassed them, they destroyed their internal GPS. Their emotional mechanism is broken and defunct. It doesn't work. So that's why they think anyone that pays attention to me must have good intentions because you're not paying attention to yourself. So it's not about fault, but you are responsible for your life. Okay. But this is what happened. They completely destroy your ability to think in a healthy manner. Being stuck in life. This one really surprised me. I did not ever think of that. I never thought that it correlated. Or men who seem great but can't offer support in situations like that, or when you're down. That's not husband material. Exactly. Okay. This is something that he mentions. Actually, bring it up. Okay. So being stuck in life really surprised me. I never ever thought of that. Being stuck in life. Why? Because in order to grow, we have to trust new experiences and we have to take risks. But when our trust has been destroyed, it's not just destroyed in relation to relationships or dating, it's destroyed in relation to life. So we're scared to try new restaurants, we're scared to apply to new jobs. We don't trust ourselves to show up. We don't even trust that life will be able to um, work out for us, provide for us in some manner. So we have no trust. We are generally frozen in life. So this correlates, I think, a lot to my elaboration is things like procrastination or embracing the mundane because it's safer than trying something new. So if you're stuck in, let's say, patterns in romance, that can also apply. Like, why do I always pick the same people, different faces, different places? Because you feel safe, because you know the outcome. You know you'll be betrayed. You know you'll be abused. You know you'll be ghosted or something. So that's, you keep falling into that. Okay. Also, how are you going to praise some traits and say you're okay with that? But the whole time you're waiting for me to change those without bringing it up until there's no solution. Why do men do that? Okay, how do you okay, because it takes work and it's easier just to shaft you with the burden, I imagine. That's why. It's childish, isn't it? Attraction to dishonest or untrustworthy people, which makes you stuck even more. As I just said, you're used to the pattern, so you're just gonna ride that wave. Okay, this is one of the reasons as well why arranged marriages have a higher success rate because people don't operate from that place. It's just taken out of the equation when they're matched up with someone. So, what destroys trust? Are we ready? This is quite the list. This is quite the list. Okay, I've added some things here and there, but I love it. This is amazing. Everybody should go watch this. Okay, talking behind one's back. Actions don't match words. Refusing to accept accountability for their actions. Blaming others for their actions. Cheating, cheating to win at everything. So take someone to the arcade, see if they're a good sport, see if they're good I like board games, so something I often do is take men to like a board game place just to see how they take I'm not saying this to be like arrogant. I've never been on a date, played any board game and lost. It's usually like trivia or Scrabble, and no matter how smart they are, it's never happened. I've been doing this since I was like 18 years old, okay? And I think a couple times they were really salty about it or like in disbelief because they overestimate themselves, they have undue confidence. But if you don't have a sense of playfulness, then how are you going to have a fun relationship? You have to have fun in life. Like a long-term marriage is supposed to be like one long date you never get off of. You have to endeavor to have fun. Okay. Throwing someone under the bus. So he says this, throwing people under the bus violates trust. So let's say like at work, if you have a coworker and they do something and then they snitch or whatever, and you're like, why wouldn't you just tell me? That's kind of like the first thing we think of. Like, that's just so undecent. And then it's so annoying when it comes back to you. Managers are like, oh, but why can't you work together with them? I didn't destroy the trust. They destroyed the trust. So I don't want to be here. I don't want to cooperate with them. They're inherently uncooperative. Okay. So people like that in relation to us, whether whatever, romantic or not romantic, that's a violation of trust. Like people who, let's say, kids do this, like they'll belch really loudly, and then so not to get in trouble, they'll turn to their sibling or their friend and go like, "Charlie, that's gross." And that poor soul's like, "What?" That violates trust, So when people don't let you in, that's you probably do some stupid, immature things like that. And notice how often, like, I rip on immaturity, and so many of these things correspond with just having a lack of inner cultivation. And but this is all things that you can help. So that's why I don't want to hear victim mentality. Saying I'm important, but not showing it through deeds. So again, saying that they care about you, but not treating you as though they care about you. Talking excessively about oneself. And this happens oftentimes in dating in the modern world where dudes will sort of overly advertise what they're interested in or what does it for them, but they're not asking you what you want, and if they do, they don't deliver. So if you're like, "I like fresh flowers. I like being picked up for a date." So it's okay for you to be grotesque and like sexed or be flirty, but when I'm telling you, "Oh, I want mental intimacy. I want this. I want respect." They're like, "Oh, that's no fun." Again, do you see? Operating from a childish place of mind. Asking no question about the other person's life and not making an attempt to know them. This is a serious, serious problem in the modern age, in the part of the world that we live in, all right? Again, it's like they think getting to know you is being raunchy or like having very flirty discourse. You can flirt with anyone. Whatever the male equivalent of ovulation is probably their like resting state. If you could look at a tree and be attracted to it, you don't see me as a person. Like what is that even? Ask me something about my life. Like actually talk. You have to. One thing I've noticed about dudes, I was having dinner on Monday. I was talking to I said, one of the things I've noticed that's really, really strange is I found that often the times guys think that if they're having fun, they assume you're having fun. No, like I'm fun. I'm the fun. I bring the fun. You have to also make sure I'm having fun, which I feel like doesn't really go both ways a lot of the time. Gossip. Full stop. They gossip about other people, they're probably going to do it to you. Manipulation, obvious. Betrayal of any kind, we discussed. Failing to follow through on promises. Secretiveness. Honestly, being mysterious is actually vulgar. It's a very vulgar quality in a human being. It's not nice. It's not cute. We have to feel safe to emotionally open up to people. So when you're overly secretive, it destroys trust. So I know someone who when they're out and they get approached, they won't tell anybody they won't give their real name, they won't tell them what they do for work, which is fine. I don't like talking about work either, but like anything about themselves, they'll just make it all up. They'll make it all up. They'll make it all up. And I'm thinking, how are you ever going to find someone to marry you? Because if you actually take an interest in them, if they're persistent and they're really like, also, they kind of know, I think like they can smell the aloofness. But if they actually end up going out with you, you've got to reverse all of that and explain it's too much. It's sort of like, when dudes say they're 6'2" on a dating app and then they're under your chin when you meet up with them, it's not the fact that you're short. It's not the fact that you're 5'7" or something. It's the fact that if you're willing to lie about that, you're willing to lie about anything. And that's before I've even met you. So we're off to a really bad start. Hiding that you're bald, hiding this, hiding that. That's just not that's not how secure people move through the world, okay? So full stop, no. Breaking promises, this is my input, misrepresenting someone to other people, okay? So this happens a lot, like when dudes will say like, "My ex was crazy," and it's like, "Why was she crazy?" It's like, "Cause she didn't let me cheat on her." Be for real. Showing no desire to apologize. Oh my God, story of my life, asking for my advice and then not following it. This is something that happens a lot of the time in friendships. It really breaks trust because you waste their time, you waste their emotional energy. Um, and we know that when people ask you for help, it's like a huge indicator that they trust in you. So you reciprocate that by taking the time to dissect their problem and actually like help them in good faith out of the goodness of your heart. And then they go and do the opposite. And you're like, you know what, just stop asking me. And they probably get mad at you. But I've said that to people's faces. I have no fear. I'm like, just don't. If something happens, I don't care. Only come to me with good news because I'm tired. I'm not your mom. I don't care. Figure it out. Okay. If you're going to stay with him and cry, God bless you. Either way. But I'm not God. So what do I care? Okay. Betrayal of confidence. So again, it's pretty much happened to everyone. Like maybe you're 16 or something. You tell your friend you think that boy's cute. Show up at the party. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, you like Luke? You like this? You like that?" And you're just like, "What?" And then that's a huge betrayal. Betrayal of confidence. Say you're at work, you apply for a promotion, and someone blabs, and you're like, "Why?" That's a betrayal. Okay, that breaks trust. Remaining closed off and not sharing personal matters of the heart. That's also a violation of trust. So, um, you cannot cultivate a feeling of security and have a meaningful relationship, friendship, working partnership, business partnership, anything, if you don't feel safe with that person and they don't also show you that you're a safe person to them. So unless you can talk about something like, I need to get this book. It's on YouTube. He does like a lecture series. Um Tell me about your children, tell me about your dog, tell me about your vacation. You don't have to open up in a big way, but you can mention like, "Oh, I like that show. I played tennis as a kid." Something, okay? Like, you have to humanize. When you're completely closed off, it really doesn't sit well with people. It doesn't, that's like what criminals do. They don't let anyone in. And people will say, "Well, that happens because I was abused, because my trust was broken." Right, but then what you do is if you go through the world doing it to other people, you don't help yourself or them. You're like making more villains. You have to heal, okay? Oh, I love this one. Bad temper, being explosive, unpredictable, hot-headed, anger problems. People, again, this is about immaturity, acting from a childish place. People who are bad-tempered and cannot regulate their emotions break trust. Because let's say you say to them, "I'm really tired, I don't feel like cooking." And they're like, "You said you would make me lasagna today." And they explode. It makes you feel like you can never be yourself. You're walking on eggshells. That is a violation of trust. So now instead of one person being a little bit bummed because of a baked dish, now two people are hurt. And now we're at a standstill. Okay, so um, people who have issues regulating how they feel, suspicious, jealous, whatever, that's a breaking of trust. Lying, even if it's white lies, even, and I've said this my whole entire life. I don't care. I will die on this hill. When they're like, "Don't hurt your friend's feelings. Tell them they look good in those jeans." I will never do that to you, queen. I will never let you go out there and look frumpy or less than or no, 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 no. I don't have it in me. I've gotten in trouble with friends for this before. I will not lie to you. Thin brows don't look good on everyone. That fake glue on lash does not suit your eye shape. That blush is not for you. You're cool blue undertone red, not a true red lipstick girl. I will tell you the truth. I will tell you if you have salad in your teeth. You will not believe how often that would get me in trouble when I was younger, when people are a little bit more insecure, but I don't care. I hold fast to that. I don't believe in white lies. I just don't believe in white lies. Okay. If you ask me for my opinion, I won't volunteer it, but I will tell you because I feel like you do me the honor of trusting me. Okay. I'm going to sit there and take time to analyze what's happening, you can honor me by taking my advice. Otherwise, I don't want to hear it. Conflict. People who turn on those closest to them, I've noticed this. I don't know what's wrong with some people. Like, it's a very childish thing to turn on people closest to you when you're upset because children know even when they have a temper tantrum or they're miserable, their family's not going to leave them. Like when you're 8 years old, you're not going to be turned out on the street no matter how badly you behave. There's that whole study around like kids act worse around their primary parent because they know they have unconditional love from that source. That person is their source of stability and affection and food and all that, right? So I never understood as adults when someone's like going through a hard time, why they like mouth off to their nearest and dearest. That is a violation of trust. It's because they know that you won't leave them, but you have to have some consequences. Okay. So turning people, so pay attention. Pay attention. If they're going through a hard time and they turn on the people closest to them, that person's probably not ready for you, okay, and the kind of love that you offer because they're not accountable. Always put their own interests ahead of others, okay? So if you have to study for an exam and your partner wants to go to the pub and drink and watch sports games, like, "Why can't you come? Why can't you be fun?" Sorry, but I have things to do that are important to me. Maybe they're not important to you, but your interests are not the only ones that matter in this relationship. There's more than one person in this relationship. Consistently treat some people better than others. So this is another thing I take issue with in the modern age. Sorry, is the whole like, "You're my top 5. I reply to these 3 people. Everyone else I don't." Even like Taylor Swift mentions that in like one of her songs. I'm like, "What do you mean? Just be decent. When you reply, reply to all your messages. Sit down, take some time." Mm, I don't know. I find that very, very bizarre. You'll see that a lot of times, like when they stop in those street interviews, and they're like, "My mom comes first, then my child, then my wife," and I'm like, "This is not having a hierarchy for love is a bit weird, but if you were to have it, obviously the love that you choose, such as your partner, should come first because it's a reflection of your decision making abilities, right? So, they'll treat some people great, some people not so great. That inconsistency is not okay. You have to be decent across the board. You have to be kind to everyone. And I don't know what it is with some dudes, and some people in general, but mostly it's dudes. They're like, "Oh, I'm nice to the waiter. I'm nice to the janitor. I'm not just nice." Like these stupid like LinkedIn quotes that they find. They like take it as Bible. They're like, "This is gospel, man." And then they like crap on their wives, crap on their girlfriends, don't know their kids' birthdays, but they think they're better than other people because they, treat the whatever subway conductor. It's like, what are you talking about, man? Just be decent. It's because it's in you to be decent. People who are impulsive, okay, impulse control issues are not trustworthy people because you never know what you're going to expect from them. And you know what's funny? Think about what's deteriorated people in the whole collective culture and the whole collective consciousness. I remember watching The Simpsons as a child and I thought, why is the husband an idiot? Actually, explain it to me. Why is the husband? That makes no sense. Why? And he's a stay at home wife. That's very risky. That's like just a poor choice of person to breed with. And then Family Guy and everything came out. And then I started to think about it. I was literally like 13 and I thought, how come in all these cartoons made for kids, the dad is a moron? I don't understand. So this and they do impulsive things, they buy pets, like even like I like Phil Dunphy from Modern Family, but like one time like that stupid like little clip where he like buys a llama or something, or he's always flirting with Gloria, and people will think it's a comedy show, you don't have a sense of humor, get over it, or you look fun, you're fun to be around. But honestly, where's your emotional intelligence? Like beneath the earth's crust? Like what do you mean? That's not healthy. That's just like so insane to me. Anyway, not knowing how to manage their own emotions, not giving you the same courtesy. This is what I would say. This is my input. Not giving you the same courtesy. So if you know you're having a bad day and you start to kind of sort of isolate yourself, you take a bath before you go out and try to socialize with your partner. Obviously, you greet them and everything. But when they're having a bad day, they come home and just like poo poo on the whole atmosphere. That's not very courteous. Like, and they should have the wherewithal to think my partner has never done this to me before. Oh, how come when they come home in a bad mood, I don't feel worse for it? Because you control yourself. Well, maybe I could do that for them. Okay. This one's interesting. Bad money manager. This goes well with impulse and maturity. So people who don't manage their money can also show, and I have a theory, like on delayed gratification. Like people like that are much more trustworthy, much better husband material. People who can like save up and invest, and it's a form of not betraying yourself either. Okay. No, not crapping on the sweet little treat. We all love a sweet little treat, but on the whole, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. That's what it is. You don't get to have that thing, including women. You can't afford that type of woman, you don't get to have her, period. Inconsistent with words. This one's interesting. Sneaky agenda. So sneaky agenda is saying you want to do something, but that you do something else. So for me, the modern equivalent is let's watch a movie, but they're actually trying to bed you, or they get to know you under the pretense that they want a relationship, but they're not commitment oriented. How many people do you know in 2024 who've been dating someone for months, 6 months, 8 months, whatever, only to wake up one day and get a text that's like, hey, I'm not really sure I want a relationship. I wouldn't have spoken to you otherwise. What do you mean? Don't talk to men for free though. They will eat your soul. They waste your time. Okay. So having a hidden agenda, it doesn't have to be sexual. Again, it could be a coworker. It could be, let's say, a classmate who's only friends with you so they could copy your homework or study for the exam. That's annoying. You know what I mean? And then he says, watching porn, full stop, breaks trust. I will agree with that. Not going to even elaborate. This is common sense. Liking other people's pictures on social media, having fake social media accounts without your knowledge so they can creep on other naked people or whatever. OnlyFans, porn, strip clubs, just full stop. No, that is not sending nudes. Like, I'm not into it. What are you doing? That's a no. So, it doesn't, again, it's very dehumanizing. It doesn't show that they actually are considerate of you, caring. What are we doing? Like, what is this even? Okay. How they respond when life is stressful. So this is something that Claudia was mentioning earlier. Do you persevere or do you quit? Because he elaborates, he said, "Life will be boring, life will get hard if you're in a relationship. So if you're gonna quit, if you're gonna betray me, if you're gonna run away when, you get a cancer diagnosis and money is tight or something like that, you're not trustworthy. You're a person who breaks trust, okay? Because you also took vows that you love me, that you want to be with me, that you care about me as a friend, as a lover, whatever, and now you're bailing. That's not a trustworthy person. Person who can't sit through boredom, that's not a trustworthy person, all right? Difficulty in boredom relationships, exactly. Are they greedy? A person who's greedy, a person who has no self control, also breaks trust. Lazy and procrastinator, always an excuse for why they cannot do or finish something. A half tasker. I was with a half tasker, and this really got to me. It honestly, by the end, it got to me so much. Like a weaponized incompetence. Like, I'll do the dishes, load the dishwasher, doesn't turn it on. So that gives me 2 jobs. I have to tell you to do it, and then I actually have to go do it, and then I have to wait for it to be done, take the dishes out of the dishwasher. Don't do that. If you do something, do it all the way, do it right, okay? I'm not here for it. Exactly. I understand I'm not perfect, and I don't expect them to be, but I'm willing to work and accept those flaws and be there through thick and thin. Like, literally, like, relationship 101. It's very simple. Half tasking is a form of breaking trust. So let's say someone's like, I'll drive you to your job interview. And then the day of, you were banking on that. So you're thinking, I need 20 minutes to get there by car. They pick you up and they say, I'll drop you off at the subway station or I'll leave you at that intersection. So now you're effectively late for your job, right? That breaks trust. That's a break of trust. Inviting you to go somewhere, then the day of bailing on you and they go anyway and leave you stuck at home. That breaks trust, right? No boundaries with others and vice versa. They don't respect the boundaries of others. People who flip flop easily. Now, this is something that's driven me crazy since I was like a teenager. People say, but she's nice. I like her. She's nice. I was like, again, a person who stands for nothing will like fall for anything type of thing. I'm like, I don't trust those people. I don't care how nice you are. Niceness, like politeness, is a trained behavior. It's not genuine. It doesn't come from the heart. And at the beginning, what does it say? A person who's trustworthy operates from a place of love. So if you don't love yourself enough to say, I'm not going along with that. I'm not going along with the crowd, the mob, the whatever. I'm the salmon like flipping upstream, okay? On my own, I don't care. I don't care if I'm a loner. I don't care. It's my conviction. I have conviction. I have courage. I have bravery. If you don't have that, you're just like a bag in the wind. I don't trust you. You will turn on me. You will turn on anyone. We're definitely not doing a bank heist, period. If I can't trust you in a heist, what the hell can I trust you for, honestly? Double standards. All right. Change when they're with certain people and lacking. This is a lack of authenticity. Same thing with flip flopping. So I've heard that a lot, even in my surprising life, even in adult years. Some people will say, I really don't like talking to that person anymore because when we're this group of friends, they're like this, but when we're that group of friends, they're like that. And I just like, who even are you? You have no center, you have no sense of self, and your equilibrium is dependent on what everyone else is doing. That breaks trust. Remember, oh, this is my input. You can have trust without love, but you cannot have love without trust. So I can trust, like Claudia say, like, I trust you. I want to open a business with you. We'll be great business partners because I trust you. Absolutely no problem. I don't have to love you. I don't have to marry you. I don't have to fall in love with you. I trust you. The reason money is such an important factor, I remember I went on a date with a wealth investor, something or other, and he said, my job isn't about money. I said, how is it not money? All you do is manage money and like portfolios, right? And he said, no, Monica, my job is about relationships. People, whether they inherit their money or born into it, grow it, earn it. He goes, we have been in relationship for like 12 plus years. They trust me with their money. It's a matter of energy, emotional energy. He's like, my job hinges on trust and relationships. And it blew my mind and it changed the way I saw things. So when someone literally puts their money where their mouth is, or spends money in other ways, like their time, shows up for you, calls you, talks to you, listens to your problem, send when you're tired or something, sends you Uber Eats or whatever, right? It's not the fiscal element, it's the fact that They had to spend their own energy and money to get that, and then they chose to bestow it upon you. So that's trust, okay? But you cannot have love without trust. You can have trust without love, like in a business sense or in a coworker sense or like with your dog walker, okay? But you cannot have a relationship, like a friendship, familial, romantic without trust, okay? It's empty and void because you can't share with them because it threatens your survival. How do you feel about that? And no seventh house synastry. Oh man. That's all right. It's all down to willpower. So he also mentioned that trust is oftentimes, this is something again I have a problem with. Trust is eroded gradually. Oftentimes it is eroded gradually. So this is, his, but I want to mention that when we think of breach of trust, or you said agreed, I feel like it says more about a person if they're willing to spend resources and do things for you rather than building trust, love, just from a physical touch. That's what I'm talking about. So all your flirting, all that stuff, that means nothing to me. You haven't thought like, it doesn't take a genius. Like it takes maybe 30 seconds to figure out Monica's a heavy reader. Send me a gift card to a bookstore. Say, let's go gallivanting around the city looking for used bookshops or something. It shows that you like listen and that you care, whatever, right? Um, so oftentimes when we think of a breach of trust, we think of one singular event like financial infidelity. They like that one girl on Reddit who said 2 weeks before moving in with her boyfriend, she found out he bought like an $87,000 truck and didn't tell her. So he was going to stick her with the rent and all the bills. And she said, hell no, and like broke up with him, right? That's a violation of trust. Obviously, physical and emotional cheating, that's a violation of trust. But even if a person doesn't seek some fulfillment outside of the relationship, be it sexual, emotional, whatever, they can still violate your trust over time. So he gives the 5 stages of the gradual breakdown of trust in a relationship. Doubt. They cast doubt upon you. You used to believe everything they said. Now you're like, I don't know why would you say that? Do you mean what you say? Now I'm doubting you and I'm doubting myself. Sorry. Claudia says, I have to go back to work. This was fun. Oh, I love you. Okay, bye. Have a nice day. Suspicion, arousing suspicion within you because now you don't know if you're being gaslit, you don't know what to believe, this, that, the other. Anxiety. You are not supposed to be anxious with the person that you're near. If you start to feel just anxiety when you fall asleep, anxiety when you wake up, and then on top of that, they probably gaslight you and say that's a you problem. Did you take your meds? You need a new doctor. That's not normal. When you're with people who make you feel safe, you are able to regulate yourself a lot better. Plus, we're mammals. You have to remember that we're mammals. We really feel things. They don't have to be beside you. They can be across the world, and you'll feel it through your phone. Something is just off. Okay. Fear. This violates trust. It breaks down trust. Why? You're afraid to be yourself. You're afraid to open up. Maybe you say, oh, the last time this happened, they ridiculed me or they made fun of my Christmas present in front of our families. Or the last time I went through their phone, this happened. Or, they reverse accused me of violating their Also, fun fact, when you're in a partnership, their phone is your phone because it's an extension of who you are and you're supposed to have complete and full access to that other person. So I don't believe that you can violate your partner's privacy. We're in a relationship. I've seen your privates. There's no privacy. What do you mean? That's crazy to me. Okay. So anyway, um, you're afraid to be real. You're afraid to be honest. And you find yourself being guarded now. Now you're scared to express yourself. You're walking on eggshells. That is a gradual breakdown of trust. And we arrive at the fifth thing: self protection, self preservation. Now that trust has been eroded, I'm physically here. I'm cooking with you. I'm eating. Maybe we're even in bed together, but I'm not opening up to you. I'm afraid of you. Everything I do, I'm mentally detached. I'm mentally somewhere else. I'm not emotionally invested because I don't trust you. I'm not putting my energy into you anymore because I don't know what's going to happen. Okay. So, generally, withdrawal. A lot of those Reddit things are like, I broke my wife. She's not the same. She doesn't talk to me about her day anymore. This is the final nail on the coffin for the breakdown of trust is when you talk about superficial logistical things. So you just talk about walking the dog, going to the dentist, taking the kids to school. You're not opening up about your day. You're not telling them the office gossip and drama, but you put that on yourself, okay? Empty conversation. Stay busy all the time, purposely being distracted. You could be in the room with them, living with them, you purposely don't want to engage with them. You'll start vacuuming, folding along. I hate ironing. I'll whip out that ironing board at the speed of light. Sparks will fly out. Like I do it so fast. I just don't want to talk to you. Okay. You shut down And sometimes people even turn to bad behaviors to feel numb or to numb themselves. So oftentimes when trust is broken and the person has issues with substance abuse, you'll find that they'll relapse because they just need to cope somehow, or they'll numb themselves through shopping or strenuous physical exercise just so that they don't have to emotionally engage with the other person. They completely like want to numb themselves. Another thing is you find it a violation of trust is people who find it hard to receive. They find it hard to receive compliments, gifts. Someone you go for coffee and they're like, "Oh, please don't pay for it. I'll pay for my own $2 coffee." Like, who gives a shit? Like, I asked you for coffee. I'm going to pay for your coffee. But they can't. They're just so closed off. So oftentimes it traps them in a cyclical behavioral pattern. So Tim Fletcher says they tend to become a giver because to receive, you have to be vulnerable. And you'll see this a lot of the time with modern women in the West. They'll say, I don't want a man to pay for me because they'll expect something. No, that's your own thinking. Okay. You have to learn to trust life. You have to come to terms with that that's okay to do. You need to be vulnerable to receive. If you can't receive, that means that you're stuck in the pattern of being a giver. So you're giving your time, you're doing the texting, the calling, the planning, the paying because it makes you feel safe, because you feel guarded, because nobody has access to you. So you can't have a healthy relationship. So you have to go through some type of healing. But generally, it also leads to a fake connection without any true healthy intimacy. And that's no bueno because that doesn't fulfill the purpose of life, really. So I would say little biblical thing we're going to leave it on in the spirit of Tim Fletcher, who I think is a Christian, is in terms of revenge. It says, "Do not let evil conquer you." I think it's Romans something. I don't remember what, but it's Romans. Don't let evil conquer you, but conquer evil by doing good. So never become like the people who hurt you. Get over it as best as you can. Forgive and forget if you can't. Recover and retreat and stay away. Oh my god, we made it to an hour. I can't believe it. I did so good today. Yay! Thank you. And it's honestly it's good practice just to have in life. It doesn't matter if you're married or single, whatever you do for work. This is just good to kind of keep reflecting on and remembering that we do what we can with the knowledge that we have at the place that we are in life, wherever that is, whenever that is, and operate from that place and work on it. And whoever it is that broke your trust, hurt you, whether if it was your upbringing or some event, um, you can make peace with it and move forward with more confidence in life. Because at the end of the day, trusting life is pretty much the most important thing that we can do. And we feel that we can't, then we just don't live as much of a fulfilling existence or experience as I think that we're born to do. And so don't suffer needlessly. Go forth and be happy. And until Sunday, I love you all so much. And bye for now.